Hi, welcome back to my channel, and today I will be showing you homework 2.2 inheritance. So inheritance is extending. The basic idea is that we're going to extend one class to another, which means everything we have made in that other class is accessible in the other class. The first thing we're going to do is we want to show my multiply class extended to my math class. I'm going to scroll all the way up here. And as you can see, the way you extend the class is quite simple. You just extend it to the other class. So multiply P21 extended to math. That is what our teacher had us do, and that's what it was in the homework notes. So that was the first thing. So that means that everything in this class is therefore extended into this class. The way my teacher described it was that this is the parent class and this is the child class. And he asked us to extend our multiply private class to our matrix class. This is my main class, however. So what we're going to do is they also want us to change everything to protected. Everything is changed. So what is happening here is the homework was to make a matrix and to make different string messages. And this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to multiply a matrix times a message. Now I want to print it out. But as you can tell, this is string inputs. Because this is my main class, I am showing you 0 of my functions of how this is going to work. And I will be going to my multiple class to show you. My inputs are matrix A and the message, which is this first message. Regardless of how long the message is, this function should work. So I have set everything to protected, and my first function is this set message to message. So the inputs are a double and a string, and that is taking from the double and the string that I inputted here. So matrix A and message. What it's going to do is it's going to set this message equal to message, so the message that I inputted. And then if this message is empty, which means if it's nothing, it's going to give me this message, and it's going to print that out. It's going to say, hey, this message is empty, error. However, if it is, if the matrix C length is not equal to the other matrix C length, it's also going to tell me that there's mismatched dimensions. Then, if matrix A does not have an inverse, which means it's a 2 by 3 or a 3 by 4. If it's not a 3 by 3, a 2 by 2, a 4 by 4, that means it doesn't have an inverse, and that means this function won't work correctly. So we have these 3 settings that our teacher gave us that are safeties before we actually move on. So if it gets past all those requirements, it's going to go down to here. It's going to set A to A and message to message, and it's going to take this function, which is change to character, and the input is a message. So that's going to be in my other class. This class, as you can see, this is my first function. This is my change to character function, and the input is a string, but it spits out a character matrix. So it's going to say, while the message, if it's divided by 3 and it doesn't equal 0, it needs to add another space, so that it'll end up like a 3 by 3 matrix or a 3 by 4, but as long as you're able to multiply it, it's alright. I'm going to divide the length by 3, and the columns are 3. So the columns have to be 3, and the length I'm going to divide the length by 3, and the columns will be set to 3. And it's going to run through this iteration of for loops, which is what's going to create the message. And then it's going to print out that message, and it's going to print it out in characters. Going back, so that's the first step. Now I'm going to do change to mat, and I'm going to use this mat E. So the message that I just changed into characters is going to be this mat E, and I'm going to plug that into this. Going back to my cast 20, this is the next function. So it's going to take a character message and it's going to spit it out as a double. It's going to go through 2 iterations of for loops, and then it's going to spit out the matrix as a message. The matrix message. Then I'm going to multiply. Now that I have numbers that represent those letters in my message, I'm going to multiply it times mat A. And then I'm going to take the inverse of mat A and multiply it times mat C, which is the multiplication of mat A and B. I have set it equal to mat C, and so I'm going to do this. As you can see, this inverse matrix A is what this safety net is here for. So say the matrix A was a 2 by 3, there would not be any inverse. So we always want to have an inverse for matrix A, but we do not need an inverse for my message matrix, which is why the message can be as long as it wants, but we want it to have 3 columns. That way it's able to multiply. So I'm going to spit out the message matrix, and I'm going to multiply it, which is a step I didn't show, because we weren't required to show. So I multiply it, and then I multiply it again times the inverse. So I encode it, and then I decode it. Encode it, decode it. And then now that I'm back to my original numbers that represent my message, I want to turn it back into a message. So I have this function at the bottom. So it's going to take a double and it's going to turn it back into characters. And then it's going to print it out. So as you see, this is my mat. So we have a multiply function here and an inverse function up here. And that is what I'm using right here. As you can tell, this multiply and this multiply. And that's why we want to extend for everything in this class is an invisible copy in this class. So therefore, I do not need to have this class open. I can close it. So now I'm going to show you how my code works. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have this message, first message, that's what I'm going to print out. Alright, so it obviously prints out this message times matrix. This is the message in characters, so that first function I used. Then it turns the characters into matrix, that's that second function I used. And then it turns it back into characters. That in-between step that happened was the multiplication, so the encoding and the decoding. And that's something we're not required to show, but so you have an idea. In between the matrix and the characters, there is an invisible step that is not printed out of the multiplication of the matrix and the multiplication of the inverse. So that's the first one. Let's try the second one just to show that they all work. This is the second one. I like food. So I'm going to have my character message, then my matrix message. So that these numbers represent those numbers. And then back to my character. Now we get to message 3 and we can see that this message is a little bit longer. I like friends. So it worked perfectly, and that's due to the idea that it's going to add spaces if there is not a remainder of 0, which means that when it's divided, there's a 1 or a 2, which means there's extra spaces. And that is what this function does, is this message is longer, therefore it doesn't fit in the perfect 3 by 3, and it's going to add spaces. So I like friends, then this is turned back into numbers. Remember that invisible step of multiplying times mat A, and then multiplying times the inverse, and then splitting the matrix back out. Alright, so now I'll show you the last message form. I like music. That's my message. And so you see the character form, then you see the numbers form. Remember that invisible step where we multiply times matrix A and then times the inverse, and then back to characters. Thank you so much. Goodbye.